Oh! Oh! Woo! You are looking live at the GovCast from South Florida. How's everybody doing today? Welcome to the Ides of March. Woo! Kelly says we gotta let the music play. There it is. You can hear it. Woo! It's still football season. Where's Brent Musburger when we need him? I need. We gotta get.
Where are you watching football, Jack?
He's got to be available. How do we get him to cut that intro? Come on. How you doing, Steve?
Doing great, Jack.
You want to introduce people to who you are if they've missed the show for the last 17 years?
Yeah, it's been a great run, and to many more future episodes. Yeah, it's probably been over a year now we've been doing this.
I don't know. I think, what was it, March 12th? So sometime thereafter. So just under a year, I think. So.
Okay, yeah, we're coming up. This is the month.
It only seems like 17 years. See?
We got to do something bigger for we got to find that exact day we went live and do like a cool giveaway or something for our audience.
Yeah.
All the millions of fans.
Millions and the millions.
Millions. So my name is Stephen Bryan, the Dean of GovSales University. For those that do not know, what we do at GovSales University is teach people how to sell to the government, how to help win their first deal. A lot of people are just trying to figure it out and keep their businesses afloat. And the government's one of those prospects that always pays. So we created a course. There's a lot of information, Jack. I could go into it now, or we could go to your intro and then we get to it later. But I'm excited.
You mean you're gonna do it out of order? Oh, it's shocking. It's shocking. So for the audience, it's shocking. Stephen has a little bit of. He has. I don't know what you could be ADHD or whatever the thing is where you do things out of order. Whatever that thing is, like you could be a hypochondriac, you could be an ADHD. Whatever the thing where we do it out of order. Steve has that thing.
I'm your man. Is that a role? Mess up the flow of the show.
So listen, my name's Jack Sani. I am blessed to host this show and help us do great things in the government sales world or in the sales world. Andrea left us hanging today. An hour ago, she's like, I'm deep down with my team off-site doing stuff. She'd rather spend quality time with her sales team to be on the show. So next week, make sure you give her grief for that. I'm like, what's that? You're going to rather spend time? That's not nice. I mean, Steve, I thought we would be above that.
Listen, it did get announced yesterday from 12 to 1. There's Chick-fil-A and Heart and Sales happening. So you're complete. It's hard to compete with Chick-fil-A. I'm saying
that's what happened, right? The company sent out go meet us and you get free Chick-fil-A. Yeah, we're losing out. That's pathetic. We're losing out to free Chick-fil-A.
You can't beat it.
That's horrible. All right. Well, good. Hey, you have a good show. I'm gonna. Hey, we're really blessed today to have someone that works in the communications world for sales. So Tara will be here in just a second. Before we do that, though, I know Steve would just get into it.
Yep.
I think I would love folks that I know GSU has exploded really over the last 30, 45 days. And so I know that's what you were prefacing. So I'd love for you to tell folks what's happened the last month or so. It's been amazing. So why don't you share that with the folks?
That's great. So I was preffing earlier, just trying to get people educated on Government Sales University. But yeah, it's been a wild ride. And I feel so blessed right now because we had our biggest webinar last month, Spirit of Valentine's Day and Love. We talked about relationships and government sales and had our biggest turnout. Over 700 people registered for it, and the follow-ups have been great. New members getting in. We just started our own Facebook community, so as an added bonus. We're all out there. We're all trying to do our best, but the more you can support and lean on others, instead of just us, we're building a community of like-minded individuals. So if they've been in a situation that you're encountering, they can help guide you through that. So super excited about that. There's a lot happening here in 2021. But the whole goal is to take you from start to finish on how to win your first government sale, or if you are selling to the government, like what can you do better? I think we all think we know about it, Jack.
Yeah.
We also added like new videos to the program, how to sell during COVID. People keep asking and we keep delivering. And Jack's kind enough to get his camera out now and again. We're all working remote, but we keep adding new content based on your feedback. So if there's something you know or want to know about the government sales world or marketing, put it in the comments below. I'm sure other people, and we can help address those questions as they pop up here. Kelly, any questions come in yet? All right. We'll wait till they start rolling in. Maybe we'll catch them on the replay.
That's funny. Look, like Steve talks like he's in front of the camera, like Kelly's on the other side. All of our production
GovCast team. GovCast.
They used to be right on the other side of the camera, and now they're dispersed all across Florida. So.
Yeah, but it's been great. So increased our content by like 30%, 35%. So we're over 100 videos now, and it's just all there to take you start to finish on what you need to do. We're just trying to help out. Jack says 50%, so that margin.
I wasn't going to sell you out. I just said Steve a text. I go, I don't know how you did the math right there, but if there was 70-some plus 30-some, that's actually 50%. But it's okay. Like I was trying to keep it behind the scenes, but that's all right. We're just completely transparent.
Let it all hang out.
Right. Listen, the Gov Sales University thing's been amazing. Exploded really last month, as Steven mentioned. We've been talking about it for, I think it's been around for about a year or so officially, but really, really exploded at the beginning of this year as the content has really grown, and Steven and his team dedicating time to have some private Facebook groups and some other things they're doing to really, really, really help folks win their first and ongoing government sales. So just encourage folks. Steve, how do they just govsalesuniversity.com? Is that what it is?
Exactly. Yeah, you go register online, but you can also schedule a free consultation. So if you're thinking about doing it, just schedule with our team. Yeah, nice scroll action. 15-minute call. It's not going to take up a lot of time of your day. And we'll go through, see where you're currently at in your process and see if we can help. And if it's a great fit, great, we're here to help. And if not, we part ways as friends. So just a limited, maybe. I have not parted on bad terms yet, Jack. I always leave someone with a little value, even if they don't register. So
when we look in sales, we're like hanging up like they didn't buy. Look, a couple $100 a month. You're in. It's the best money. It's the best money you'll spend, and you can cancel anytime. I love GSU. Yeah. No contract. If you don't love it, just cancel. I mean, you can't. It's amazing. Oh, look at that. You have a big graphic. Look, production team is off the charts.
We also have the opportunities there as well. That's a lot of people, once they go through the videos, they're trying to figure out who's buying what they sell. So we'll feed you SLED, which is state, local, and education, all the opportunities across the U.S. You can break it down locally to your territory just to set you up for success.
Awesome. So take advantage of that. So I want to bring in our guest today. So we're super, super blessed to have Tara Horstmeyer. I think I got that right. A communication strategist. She's worked with some of the top companies you've heard of, from Gravy. So we're going to talk about, her involvement in church and her love of hip hop music. So this will be a great show. So welcome to the show, Tara. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
So, and look, if you go to her LinkedIn, which we'll have up later, it says, look, LinkedIn's one of the top 100 sales stars. So one of the elite folks floating around social media. So encourage you to go follow her. We'll give you her link in just a little bit. But Tara, thanks for coming on the show. Can you tell folks a little bit about your background?
Yeah. So thanks for having me. I'm I'm sitting here and I'm listening to all of this video content, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is literally my favorite thing ever. So I love that you guys have that. And y'all need some gravy if you're not already. So we can definitely do that. But yeah, so my name is Tara. Like I said, a lot of people, I'm like, just Tara. That's all good. The last name, it can get a little bit of a mouthful.
I got it the first time.
You nailed it. Absolutely nailed it. A lot of people don't, and that's okay. Tara. I'm like, hey, you, whatever. But yeah, so I go by Tara, and I have had kind of a crazy career. I think you guys had me at Florida. So I am a Florida girl, born and raised, huge Gator fan. Actually went to the University of Florida, graduated, go Gators. So, but moved up here to the beautiful suburbs of Atlanta.
She went into enemy territory every year for the Florida Georgia game.
I know. We would hit in Jacksonville. But so now I'm surrounded by Bulldogs. So I've got to find some way to stand out. And my way is I'm just going to communicate. That's all I'm going to do. I'm going to communicate better. I'm going to tell them all about my Gators, and we're going to leave it at that. So but my career has really just been in the communications industry. From an editor, I was a journalist as my degree at Florida, and spent time in y'all's neck of the woods working in a newspaper. And
Florida, roll down here a little while.
I was at the Sun Sentinel for a good amount of time in the summer, an internship. And so that's really where I got my chops, was in the newspaper industry. And I just really learned, hey, you've got to chop things down. You got to get to the point, and you've got to just present things in a way that people read them. So go figure, next time you read an article, think about it through the lens of any kind of communication. So I went from there to private publishing. And then after that, spent time in ministry, which I know you alluded to, at a huge church here in Atlanta, a network of churches. And from there, went to Gravy, of course, which is where most people know me. And I absolutely loved it. Spent, 2.5 years putting on my builder hat. I think there were probably about 8 or 9 full-time people when I joined. And now they're up to like 83, 90, somewhere in there. And still obviously super close with the team and get to still do some fun stuff with them. But in Gravy, you know, when there's only a few of you, you wear a ton of hats. So I got to wear a ton of hats. And probably one that I really spent a lot of time was in our sales development program. So building that from the ground up, proving it first, because you got to be not only just a builder and leader, but you got to do the work. And then leading a team and building them up. And then now I get to do that, but in more of a freelance and contract capacity just this year. So
I love it. There's like 20 things to dive in. Listen, you don't know this, but Steven and I had to do that, right, Steve? We literally, when we started this current company, Steve and I sat back to back for a couple years and made every call. We're like you said, unless you've done it, you can't coach anybody else unless you've done it. So I used to, my wife would be like, what are you doing? I'm like, oh yeah, we're making like 100 calls a day trying to figure out what the heck this product really is. So Steve and I lived that literally back to back. We had no crates on the wall. We were like the bed crates to try to soften the.
That was amazing. Yeah, I have a loud voice, so in the office it would echo. So you know the egg crates you put on your mattress in the dorm. We thought, see, some hip hop producers do that. You know, back in the old school days, you just nailed to the wall. So we had that going on, and luckily. Jack and I were so successful in our calls that we were able to move to some new office space and
thank goodness.
Upgrade.
Thank goodness we didn't kill the cat.
The rest is history from there.
So Tara, for our audience, can you connect the dots between, hey, you're in kind of the journalism world and that kind of thing, and then moving that to sales? I'm sure, it's just an interesting process. I think they're highly correlated, but folks are like, how does a lady who's in the reporting, newspaper world move to the sales content world? So I'd love for you to share that story with folks.
Yeah, totally. So you nailed it. I mean, content. When we think about like what is undergirding all of that, content and communication. So they're really not as separated as people think. And I did a post on LinkedIn a few weeks ago where I laid it out like, hey, as an editor, I would write compelling headlines. I would pull the reader into the story. I would interview people. I would ask questions. I would seek clarity. I would listen. And then I would put together a package, a storyline, and then invite them in to buy that story. So that's what you do as an editor. And that is what you actually do a ton in sales, is there's so many lines. And I always say, so copywriting itself is the art and science of strategically delivering words, whether written or spoken, that get people to take action. And so when you think about it that way, I'm like, that's sales. Like, it's just delivering words. And yes, they're going to be different. It's going to be a conversation. But ultimately, you want people to take action on those words, even if it's, hey, no action right now. I just want you to understand or listen or learn something. But the next step, hey, are we going to have a next step? So it still is in the journalism or in the content world, very closely correlated to the sales world, because you still have to write pitches. You still have to write DMs, messages, text proposals. Like, there is so much writing that your average or your everyday sales pro does that I think they just think, okay, I'm just going to put something here. I'm just going to do something there. And they don't. They do.
Look, everyone thinks they do. People says, I'm a good writer. You're like, no, you're not. Don't change our email string. No, you're not actually good. In fact, get Grammarly on your computer, because everything you write is not good, right? That's it. All the salespeople think they're so good at it. It's crazy, and they're not. They're not. Can you tell folks about Gravy? So I assume most of our audience is familiar with it, but can you talk about Gravy, what that unique organization does, have a unique spin on kind of making sure folks get paid?
Yeah, so it's great. A lot of people think they know. It's like, oh, it's debt collection or it's this. And I'm like, actually, it's way more customer service oriented because Gravy doesn't deal with people who want to cancel or people who don't want to pay. You know, what they really help you do is say that you've got somebody who signed up for GSU and you're like, okay, on month 3, they're paying. And then all of a sudden you get a notification in Stripe. Most people don't even check it. And are like, oh my gosh, you know, Sally Jane didn't pay or whatever. And it's because their credit card declined for literally, there's like 125 reasons. It's not just, you know, it can be they've got a new card, they've got a new address, they've got a new PIN, whatever it is. There's literally tons of reasons. And all you get is somebody who reaches out to you, not a human, not because I'm like, who wants to pay an automated email? I don't want anybody asking me for money. But you get a person who would be on behalf of GSU. They don't even say that. They're just, you know, Jenny at GSU reaches out and they're like, hey, Tara, we just saw your credit card decline. Let me help you get that back online. We don't want you to get locked out of this amazing program. And you're like, oh, crap. Yes, of course. I didn't want to churn. You know, it was totally an accident or a mistake. Or it could be something where they had insufficient funds. I know we dealt with a lot with this with COVID. And so we get to work with people and say, hey, you know, and we would work with the client and say, what do you want to offer these people? How can we get them back online and do so in a way that truly upholds your brand? Because again, you don't want, these are paying people and you don't want to just send them away or, you know, have them have a really about something as sensitive as money. So it's really customer service when you think about it, but it's not. When people understand it, they're like, oh my gosh, yes, like that makes sense. And that's what I want. I want a person, not a technology.
That is great. Yeah, that service. All right. So really, really unique. So those of you who have issues, you know, some of your collections, whatever, Gravy's great outlet. That's right where Tara just came from. So Stevie B.
Yeah, I wanted to go back when you were talking about writing content, how that translates to sales, because we all hear it. Content is king, right? Or queen, right? For that matter. And really trying to figure that out is, you know, and I believe a lot of people have good intentions. Like, I need to put out content, whether they're a good writer or not, they're going to tackle that. And then they start a blog, right? That's one of the ways to get content out there. If you don't have a publication like the Sun Sentinel or some high fancy, you know, publicly recognized company. So you start your own blog on your website. And then I think, you know, Jack and I talked about this before.
Steven's blogging.
I just thought, look, you get through like 10 to 20.
Steven, this question is so near and dear to her heart because Steven's had to force to start blogging. So wherever this question's going, this is near and dear to his heart. Go ahead.
It is. And Tara's the perfect person. So you get through like 10, 20 ideas, right? Like these are things you could do. And then I just need to know from you, a professional writer, if someone's been doing this for years, like how do you find new ideas besides just spinning old content into new content, right? Like where do you find those inspirations? Because I'm sure you can sit there on the beach and just
Steven already has writer's block at his third blog. He needs help right now.
It's real.
You want to write to deliver value, not write just to write. And that's one thing that I heard you say earlier is like you want content that's straight to the point, that's helpful, not just this fluff to put on a page. So Tara, help us, help our audience. What should we be doing out there to
help Steve?
Yeah. So absolutely, you do. You need any company that's wants to generate traffic, wants to generate eyeballs. That's really what you want. And ultimately, you want to translate that into paying customers and paying clients. So when you're thinking about your entire content strategy, you really have to think through the lens, why should my customers care? What do they want to read? Not what do I want to put out? What do they want to read? So it's going to where they are, understanding how they consume. And it's like, there's so much marketing and so much, you know, it can be super big and broad. And a lot of people are like, oh my God, where do I even start? Just start by listening to your customers, by talking to your current customers, asking, what do they like to read online? Where do they go to get their, thought leadership or their advice? You know, what do they need to grow? What do they need to scale? I mean, people care about revenue. They care about things that will make them successful. They don't care about things that are related to your company. They want to know, how can your company make me better? So putting content around and out around your ICP, around your ideal customer profile, and things that they care about that you can actually help them with, or at least lead them down to a place where it would tie back into, this is why you need GSU. This is why you need to understand, why that learning this kind of selling method or learning, or this video content that we've done can actually help you. But the idea is probably going to be much broader than that. And then from that, like, there's tons of little tips and tricks that any content marketer can tell you about, like, looking at Ahrefs, like there's SEO blogs or SEO sites out there that can help you land keywords, can see what articles are already performing. So if it's like top 20 tips to land your first government sale, like that already has a ton of traffic and you can look. But let's say that's on your competitor's website. Well, now you probably want to write, let's do top 50 tricks, or let's do the only trick that actually matters, something like that. That's like, okay, people are already searching for this and are consuming it and want to know, how can we put our spin on it, or how can we make this even better?
I love that. Yeah, it's gonna keep me busy for another couple months, so I can use those tips and go out there and search.
She was perfect for that. How to make more money, how to make more revenue. That is in your wheelhouse. Just keep saying that all the time. I'm gonna help you sell more, make more money. So whatever topic, pick a topic, and then every other sentence, I'm gonna help you sell more and make more money. Well, that's easy.
That is the theme. But I'm trying to come up with some new ideas. But what you said, stick to what people want to hear. So I get it.
Every third line. Well, if you sell more, make more money. There you go. Just put it into whatever topic. Mix in Joe Biden, Trump one day, Biden one day, Capitol riot. We'll help you win more money. I mean, just keep it current and put in, we'll help you sell more and make more money. That's it.
We'll keep you out of jail.
Right. There you go. Whatever it takes. Vaccine, COVID, sell more. So, Tara, can you talk about, I know, I think your heart and passion was really in the SDR world, helping that communication process. And so the SDR process has really become very prevalent in the sales world, right? Where since Salesforce and Aaron released his predictable revenue book. And so I think a lot of companies try to replicate that. So I'd love for you to share kind of your experience and your perspective on the SDR process and how you help that and the things you've done in that arena.
Yeah, so I tell everybody, I'm like, when I started at Gravy and we were just trying to figure out, okay, how can we were an inbound, fully inbound and referral. Like that's how we got all of our leads. So we're talking itty bitty baby company again. I'm like number 8 or 9, and which was great. You want referrals, you want all these streams of revenue. But once Britton on our team, he was our director or VP of marketing, was like, and he came from Deputy, which was a SaaS company here in Atlanta. And so they were doing a bunch of things that were, and we're solutions. So we were different. But he brought in a bunch of experience just saying like, hey, where are some ways that we can start going outbound? Where can we just not wait for people to come to us, but go to them? And so he really understood our ICP, understood our course creator, who is our bread and butter at Gravy. And a lot of the creators lived and breathed on Instagram. So not your LinkedIn, even though they're coming. So his idea was like, well, shoot, let's just like see what happens if we just send a message. And his first one was just about partnerships and referrals. Like, hey, I noticed you have a lot of our same people, who see your stuff. Maybe we can partner. And I was like, well, hey, like the people we actually would want to use Gravy are also here. So what if we do the same thing? And I just start messaging people. And I was terrified. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm like 3 months in. I'm supposed to be writing content, doing partnerships, all of this. Then like you're saying, it's like that light bulb of like, well, this really isn't that different. I'm just communicating with people. And so I just blindly really started DMing people, and I go back and I look at them, but it was like my first 4 DMs, I booked, I think 3 or 4 meetings. Like it was like boom, boom, boom. And I'm like, wait a minute. So you talk to somebody, like obviously in your target, right? Like I knew the research, I knew the person. This wasn't spraying and praying DMs. But I really was able to, once I had that relevance and research of like, oh, they need us, I know it. Then was really the best part ever. And that has grown with Gravy was the need to communicate as a person. Like I wrote a message saying with the concept of like, if I'm going to do this, I'm doing this as me. How would I want to receive a message? How would I want somebody? I wasn't using any cold DM term, nothing like that. But literally, I was like, if somebody wants to help me, or it says, hey, I've got this really cool thing that you may be interested in. How would I want to receive that? And so I literally put on my little, like, I'm kind of, what's in it for me kind of person. So I'm like, how would I want to receive this? And I wrote that messaging 100% like that. And, I was shocked, honestly. Now I look back and I'm like, oh, I see why, but I was like, oh my gosh, they actually want to talk to us. And so I structured every message from there. I realized that there was a repeatable structure, but the very first few times, like any marketer or even sales development rep will tell you, any sales pro, a lot of the first things you do, you're just throwing stuff against the wall and just trying to see what works and then start repeating it.
That's awesome. And then you would use Instagram as a lead generator and then get that to the SDR folks that would then call them. Was that the process?
No, that did not happen for a long time. So our first, year and a half of doing this was purely on Instagram via DMs, like actual written DMs, then videos and voice messaging. And then once we got Sales Loft, we pulled and we started emailing, because if you go to anybody's Instagram account, rarely do they have a phone number, but you can dig and dive. And so we ended up, our sales development team now does do cold calling as well in their cadence of cycle. But how it started and how it originated was just purely on Instagram.
That's amazing. Yeah, I don't think folks go, oh, I got to be on Instagram to get my inbound sales happening. So
yeah, LinkedIn's the number one thing. I know you're great at LinkedIn too, Tara. So transition, keeping that going. What kind of tips do you do to connect with people on LinkedIn to, build those relationships?
Yeah. So when I really came over to LinkedIn, I had moved into more of a management seat. So even though it's like, I would always talk to people, still do, about gravy, really our team started coming on this fall. And my goal in LinkedIn always was, I always want to be a door opener, so whatever company I was representing, and it was gravy at that time, I want to be sure that people knew me. It's the know, like, and trust, knew the real me. And I mean, whether they liked me or not, who knows? That's up to them. But I was going to present myself of like, I'm somebody that you can always talk to, you know? So my role was more of like, it's not even a role. It just kind of became that, where it's like, hey, gravy's recognizable now. So when our SDRs start going to LinkedIn, again, that's not going to get them a meeting, nothing like that, but at least there'll be some name recognition.
Yeah, brand awareness.
And again, we are all about the human touch and being human and being kind, not because it's like, hey, this is some big strategic initiative that we had from day one, but because we got the right people on the right seats on the bus who are this way at their core. Like, they actually are kind, caring human beings who want to help people, not just trying to, won over somebody and make a sale. And so that shines through, I think, on LinkedIn and off.
I think it's so, especially work from home, I think it's so important. Before COVID, people were like, you should have a personal brand, or you should have your own stuff. I think people were like, whatever. And now since COVID, anybody that has their personal brand or a following has levered that. I think they've gotten through this pandemic way better than the folks that started that from scratch, right? Just trying to stay networked and stay real. And here's who I am, and here's my house, and I'm trying to make things happen just like you are. And so that's amazing. I think that's become critical in this COVID era, right? Amazing.
Yeah, totally.
You have now your new communication strategist endeavor. Like, what does that look like? So what are you trying to do for folks? And what's your ideal client? What are they struggling with? And what are you looking to do?
Well, I always say I'm trying to figure it out as I go. So really, a big piece of this is because I am like a crazy busy mom. And I'm like, I just want some more time with my kids while I also love what I get to do. And so it's really been a piecemeal of a lot of freelancing, a lot of contracts. So I've been doing writing. That's, obviously my bread and butter. And then doing some coaching and consulting specifically with SDR communication. So helping some teams get better at like, hey, how do I sequence things? How do I write? How do I, how am I on video? So even individuals shooting me videos and me sending them back and putting some time of like, hey, let's work together one-on-one. So it's really under the communications piece. That's where I find that I offer the most value for people.
Sure.
So it's just really up to, there's no one, like, this is my exact ICP. Number one, anybody who wants to be a better communicator in sales specifically, but also doing some marketing content and writing as well.
What would be, I know we were talking before the show, you're like, hey, for me, my sweet spot is more the SDR world than the AE world. So from your perspective, how do you slice those two? What's the difference between those two buckets?
So really SDR is just opening the door. It's those people. And when you think about a lot of IEs and even at a graveyard full cycle, so it still is the prospecting piece of the puzzle, which is a huge, huge one. So working with people on, how do you prospect? What does it look like to, again, set up a successful sales sequence? When is too much communication too much? So opening the door to even get that meeting booked, so your first, mini sale, if you want to call it, your first close is that booked meeting of like, okay, I've got them. Remember copywriting to get them to take action. So I've gotten them to take action. Hopefully they are narrowed down. They are in our ICP. We know a lot about them at this point. So moving them to getting to that first step, and then an SDR typically hands off to an AE to take that conversation, dive deeper, and end up with a closed won account.
Got it. Yep, definitely. That's a structure in what we do as well.
Yeah, we said we had the same system.
Yep.
But you said earlier, being a mom, juggling a lot of plates. But I also saw it was the sales enablement podcast. I believe you were on with Andy Paul, and you're just talking about managers with limited bandwidth, right? Like you're trying to run this SDR team or trying to manage your home, and you're trying to prioritize, and it's just like you're putting out fires at the end of the day, like. Jack and I talk about, it's like, what happened to today? You set up with things that are priorities, and then these urgent things come up, and one's more important, but you have to do this. And, it's constantly this battle. So someone that's juggling, 20 balls and spinning 16 plates, what have you found to be successful? Because you've been living this for a long time as well. And just always love to hear other people's perspective to, figure out what is the thing I need to do versus the thing that I want to do.
So good. Number one, coffee.
I don't drink coffee. I gotta put that on my thing. I drink
we'll work out something. So I am an early riser. I know it sounds crazy, but in order to be the best me, I have to set up my day that's going to serve me the best. And yes, I've got to have time to serve my kids and to do all that. But I get the most done the earliest in the morning when my brain's fresh, when I've had my coffee, and I'm able to truly have peace and quiet. That works for me. My husband is like a night owl. And so he'll structure more things later in the day and look different. But I made sure that absolutely everything I had to get done was done before the kids got up. And that not everybody has, number one, that problem, nor that luxury. If you've got little teeny ones.
What time is that? We had a guy 2 weeks ago. He was up at 2 a.m. What time is that for you?
Well, I'm up by 5.
There you go. That's more reasonable. Right.
Sometimes like this morning is like 5:15. Sometimes at like 4:45, but 5 is typically, if I'm not moving, there's a problem. But and so for me, my biggest value was availability. And if I'm trying to meet a deadline, because again, I'm an editor, so I put deadlines on myself constantly. Otherwise, I won't do anything. So it's like, I have to have this done by 7 a.m. I have to and put a timer on, and, I get it done. So that's my task leadership, is I make sure that I've got the freshest eyes when it comes to those kind of things, when I can knock them out uninterrupted. That's when I'm at my best. But then my day would open up and I'd move into my people leadership bucket. And so my highest value wasn't necessarily knocking out a bunch of things, but is the availability when I was leading a team to be fully available to the team during those, normal business hours or working hours, and know their schedule too. If it's, somebody's got to work a little earlier, especially in COVID with lockdowns, kids are out like crazy. So really tried to make sure that I was the best me first and do what works for me. That's not for everybody. But so I could always reach my highest values. Now that means 50 other things may not happen. But when I was in my task leadership bucket, I'm leading tasks. When I'm in my people leadership, I'm leading the people.
I mean, I think we try to run our company as well. If people are not great, settled at home, hard for them to be great at work, right? And so I think sometimes we in the business world can miss that. We're like, oh, we got to get to the goal. And you're like, I know, but so-and-so's relative has COVID, or so-and-so's kids are not, you know what I mean? Like, you just, for our audience, I just encourage you, the people side of it, making sure that that's grounded and good. And then you'll get the work side out of people. It comes, but no one's great at work when their personal life or home life is upside down. So
True.
Listen, before we let you go, we got to hit on two. So one is you mentioned the ministry piece. So I'd love for you to, now I don't know what comment you have about that. I know when you look at your background, like you talking about that there and doing some leadership development. So I'd love for you to maybe just share with the audience what that experience was like.
So this is something like literally, I'm so surprised more people don't ask about it, because I think it's one of the most fascinating thing when I meet people and who have any kind of nonprofit. So it's even like, okay, take the faith piece, take whatever. But anytime that you are leading a team, and for me, I was leading hundreds of volunteers. So what that means is I had no money to pay these people to get them to do what I needed them to do. And so you want to talk about having to learn motivational skills, people skills, getting into the intrinsic drivers of humans and of people. You take away what most people think is a driver, which is a paycheck. And all of a sudden I've got to have people working for free, but still working.
Let's go. We're not paying you. Keep working.
Yeah, they were doing stuff that they loved. They were leading students. And, of course, again, and that's when you realize like, oh my gosh, why people even work at a 9 to 5. Yes, money is important. I'm a big fan of it. Revenue drives, but underneath all of that, and it really helped me lead sales teams too, because what was important for someone outside of the paycheck, what was underneath? Well, why does this bonus matter to them? Most likely, why do they want to be number one on the leaderboard? What are those things that really can drive them under it? And it doesn't matter. Like, those are classic human drivers, period, end of story. Whether you're leading volunteers at an organization or any kind of faith-based organization or non-faith-based organization, or you're leading salespeople, or really any kind of team, is understanding the intrinsic drivers that really move them to take action at the end of the day. So I think it translates super well. And that's really, I think, what made me a much more effective leader, not just a better leader, but a different leader as well, was my time in ministry, but specifically motivating people who were working for free.
That is great. Listen, we talk about it internally. It's about what is your why, right? When you connect somebody's why to why, their work, then they go, right? Because no one gets up and goes, today I'm so excited to make 50 cold calls, or I'm so excited to go serve French fries all day. No one does that, right? But when they connect it to, this is how it helps me get to my thing in life, all of a sudden everything changes, right? Amen. And then look, I can't let you go on this. So on your bio, it says in LinkedIn, right? Hiphop Listening. So what's happening there? Like, what is your best stuff? What happens in that hip-hop listening world?
So I'm going to age myself here, but I am your 90s hip hop gal, like Biggie, Tupac, Snoop, Nelly. I mean,
there you go.
All of it. So
listen, that's not dating yourself, because all the kids today all reference that. I'm like, because your stuff today is so filled with garbage, they have to go back and like they're gonna play it, right?
And look, I'm a big Travis Scott fan too, so I mean, I'm definitely not dissing what's going on now. It's on. I'm such a bad parent. Here I am talking about like ministry, but I'm also like, this is how I bond with my 12-year-old. Is he gives me some really great music, and he is so into it that I'm like, honey, it's you come by it naturally.
It's so funny. Listen, when we had an office, because now we work from home, we would literally lover of hip hop as myself. Like, you'd be like, can you just play on Fridays? I'd be like, you cannot. If it's anything current, you can't even play hip hop station. You'd be censored hip hop station, and we still offend a half the audience. Be like, I know I'd make it through 3 songs and be like, oh, we got to change the channel. Like, even if when you do the censored, I'd go to the censored hip hop and be like, it's the worst. You can't. Today's stuff, you can, like, it's only 2 songs, but the old school stuff, we're all good. We could actually, amen. Those are all things near and dear to my heart. Your faith and hip hop music, we could just do that all day. Who cares about stuff?
I know, but at the end of the day, it's really all sales. It's all sales. I'm like, I hate to say like we're selling Jesus, but I'm like, we're trying to, in a way, we're trying to make it compelling and interesting and something that actually matters to your life. I'm like, it's all the same.
Listen, there are some great lessons in hip hop. You talk about from LL Cool J to Ice-T to Ice Cube, going from NWA, the worst thing said, to being on a show playing a police officer. You're like, how does that happen in 10 years? You know what I mean? You're like, people don't even know that background. You're like, amazed what some of the Dr. Dre, what some of the high-end hip hop guys have done has been amazing. The crossover has been amazing. Crazy.
And the producers, they know how. I talk to my kids all the time about like savvy business models, not just the writing and the lyrics and the bars. And I'm like, there's so much amazing art and content within rap lyrics. But I'm also like, you talk about like Eminem and the savviest of them all, and they have gone from saying, hey, I've been a creator at my heyday, and now I'm going to go teach you how to do this, and I'm going to sail into the sunset. And I'm like, they are so smart. They are so smart.
Almost anyone can put together a couple lyrics. And like, how do the top folks make it? It's all about they're great business people, right? So don't miss that. All the ones we know of are great business people. Amen. Because there's not much, gates to creating a rap song, right? So the ones we've all heard of, like, are the artists are great business people. They work
for it. I said, if you know them and they have worked for it, like they can sit there glorifying how they sit around all day. I'm like, they're not sitting around all day. Maybe 10 years ago.
Right. Not the ones we know of. Great. Tara, thank you. Thank you so much. How do folks get a hold of you, reach you? What's the best way for audience when they see this? They're like, oh, I need help because listen, for most of you, you're bad communicators and you don't know it. So please, 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 if you're not sure, contact Tara and let her go through your stuff. Because we all think type A's, oh, I'm good. And you get humbled really quickly when you see what great communication is like. So how do folks reach out and find you?
Easy, on LinkedIn. So just check my name, Google me, anything. But on LinkedIn, you can just send me a DM. I love to chat, so you won't get ghosted.
Amen. And again, if you missed it, so Tara's out in the market now, helping companies as available freelancer all the time. And so great resource. And she's down outside in the Atlanta area, right? You're outside Atlanta?
That's great. Right outside.
Any last words, tips, things you want to say to the millions and millions of our audience members?
Yeah, well, I just want to say communication, don't overlook it. You totally said that too, but a lot of people think it's my fault. I'm a bad communicator. This didn't land. And it's just usually super small tweaks that you don't even make in. So typically you're on the right road. You just need a little bit of massage in here and there.
We say all the time, this difference between being good and great are like 20 little things. Everyone has the basics. Listen, this annoys me so much. Everyone knows the pitch and everyone knows the answers to FAQs. And everyone knows the pricing. So stop. If all you care about are the big building blocks, everyone knows the big building blocks. It's all in the nuances. And Tara's one of the best people who can help you be great at that area, double, triple your revenue and your sales. Steve, that's the message all the time. Double, triple your sales and revenue.
It is. That's a good segue into our new webinar coming up.
There you go.
Secrets. So.
Tara, thank you so much for joining us. God bless. Stay safe and have a great year. All right. God bless.
Yeah. Thanks, Tara.
Bye.
Look, Steven wants to go right back into look. Go ahead, Steve. Go back in. Go ahead, Steve. GSU on the mind all the time. Go ahead. Webinar. Go ahead.
Well, such a great segue, Jack. We were talking about the 10 to 20 little things and our webinar. Whoa,
I didn't want to subject Tara to this. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I don't know what's happening with the graphics here. Great. There it is. So St. Pat's Day, it's going to be a great day. We're going to teach you the tips and tricks to win government sales. And you can see that pile of money there. So that's really our goal, is to help you get your share of that money. So come join us March 17th at 12 p.m. Eastern. You can go to govsalesuniversity.com/webinar and enroll. This is chapter, 16, 17. They keep growing, all the videos, like Jack said, 50% more content, but it's one of the sections where we're going to go into exactly what you need to do, talk about emails, calls, because these are the things that happen behind the scenes that nobody talks about. They're like, how do you become successful? What's the difference between good and great? Well, It's the little things. So we're going to be sharing some of those tricks and tips with you, and hopefully you can join us on the 17th at 12 noon Eastern.
Yeah, I would just share with our audience, the one unique part about this webinar as we put it together, we won't do this one again. So what happens, every 2 years, we try to take all the things we've learned from our clients. So we run a big government sales operation, right? We help companies, both Dell and Motorola and all these huge companies sell to the government. And we help mom and pop organizations win their first government deal. So we run the gamut. And so from that, again, we just talked about, it is a great segue. It's all the little things. And so that's what we're going to talk about literally on St. Patrick's Day. It is literally, what are all the little things? It's the things that people do not tell you. It's the subliminal things. One example I would use in today's society, like this, we have this webinar, right? Everybody's on webcast and webinar. And so I said to some of our sales staff, my team knows I'm super informal. I love that. I never want to be in a suit and a tie ever again. But there's also sometimes folks go too far, right? They're in a tank top and a hat sideways.
Yeah.
Right. And you're like trying to close somebody and they're never going to say it, but they're looking at you going, yeah, I'm not giving you any of my money. Right. So it's a little nuance in that process. And so just hope folks tune in, because we rarely do this, but it's going to be, this is the best of, not what we think. This is the best of clients and companies that sell to the government. Like literally, like I think it's 20 some little tips and tricks. Some you'll be like, oh, that's so obvious, you just need to hear it. Some you're going to be like, never thought of that. That's amazing. I mean, that's how I explode my sales. So this webinar is going to be one of the most amazing we do, and will not repeat it and really don't talk about it. It's literally like almost like this secret little society. So it'll be interesting to see how many folks actually tune up for that. It'll be interesting. Amen. Hey, and anything else you want to add to that, Steve?
No, that's great. Yeah, I'm just excited. You know, we're still following up from the webinar last month, but if you keep following us every Wednesday on GovCast, come to this webinar, because this is one of the things that people, when I talk with the follow-up calls, are like, thank you so much for putting those on. This is truly like the things that we needed to hear. As Jack said, some things sound obvious, but until you hear it and actually do it, and I think that's the last piece, is like, you can know what to do, but are you doing it in your day? And we're all guilty of that. Sometimes I shouldn't eat that slice of pizza, but I do it anyway. Well, talking about you're trying to lose weight with a diet. Sometimes you just do it, and you shouldn't. So
eat the pizza. You only live once. Eat the pizza. Good, run an extra mile. Eat the pizza.
That's it. Yeah, you got to put an extra mile in there. That's the key. You got to.
This is bad. I had my wisdom teeth out. I think 2 months ago.
Yeah.
I haven't had a pudding, like what is it, like Jello pudding, in like 20 years. My wife got pudding. It's bad. It's like a run now in my house. I'm like, do we make pudding? How do we get pudding? And now I'm in it. I am like one a day. It's not
man.
Not good. Hey, one last thing before we go. This is the last month. We're taking nominations for the Gov Sales Hall of Fame.
Yep.
So those of you who've been following us, listen, we're trying to do this outreach. We just want to acknowledge the folks that are in this market, folks that have worked selling to the government for many, many years, companies that help folks sell to the government. And we actually do a Lifetime Achievement Award. So if you know somebody that sells to the government and they're great at what they do, if you know somebody that runs a company or a process that helps folks win government business, that's the second category. And the third is a Lifetime Achievement. Folks that have been doing it potentially for decades. We're going to give out a series of awards in those categories. And you can go to GovSalesHallOfFame.com, nominate somebody. Right there it is, GovSalesHallOfFame.com. Nominate somebody. Listen, it's totally for free. We're not going to market to them. There's no ask in this at all. This is pure give back, acknowledge folks that have done big things, and really just to honor them. It's a daunting process, but we want to really just honor the folks, particularly during COVID. It's been amazing. The government's going through a lot, and the folks that work with the government, support them, sell to them, help them deliver COVID stuff, PPE, everything to keep the government and your infrastructure running. We just really want to honor those folks. And so this is the last month. We're going to take nominations at the end of the month. And then going forward, the winner is actually going to get a huge trophy, press release. We're going to a whole set of badges and stuff for them. They're going to be part of the Hall of Fame and a whole bunch of marketing that will be done around it. So again, if you know somebody, take 10 minutes, go nominate them. And the selection committee will work through April to pick who the winners are. Amen. Steve, before we get out here, any last items for you?
No, I think we covered it all. So appreciate, Tara joining us today as always, and keep putting that content out, right? And it's always those little things.
Write your blog, Steve. Make more money.
Little tweaks, subject lines, paragraphs, even images, to get people to click. All that stuff is so important. So definitely going to pick Tara's brain after this, but if you're not doing it, start
Tara, hang up now. Run for your life, Tara. Run. Money and revenue team. She already told you money and revenue.
Money and revenue.
We're out. See you next Wednesday. Woo!